Let's do this ring. Give me a hell yeah.
Yeah, we're going to do it again. And we're back inside of your computer. I'm WB Ward.
And I am Chip Douglas.
Back for one more week of SCI Wrestling. How you been doing, man?
I'm doing well. Doing very well. Good week of wrestling.
You know, last week, of course, was the big pay-per-view.
Right.
We had SummerSlam. And I took a look at all of our predictions. And I did a little bit of scientific analysis on...
Which is scary.
Well, and actually it provided some pretty interesting insight. Now, just to let you know what I did, I took our predictions that we made, both the ones on where we agreed and the ones where we did not agree with each other.
Okay.
I compared those with wrestling trends for the last 10 years.
What? Then
I went back and studied the demography of the audiences, both in the pay-per-view at WWE.com, compared that with the demography of the actual audience in attendance at the pay-per-view in SummerSlam, Los Angeles. Bless your heart.
Yeah. Right.
After compiling all this information and running the data analyses through several pieces of software that I discovered online, where they use it to calculate trends, audience trends, and things like that, I came to one inescapable conclusion about our predictions.
What?
We suck. We did not fare very well at all last week. I mean, we got some things right, but I don't think we've ever been as far off as what we were.
That was bad.
It was.
That was bad.
It was. And I am not really willing to take the fall on this. I don't know about you, as much as I'm willing to give the fall to WWE. And I know that sounds like I'm proclaiming sour grapes, but I'll get into more of my reasoning on that here in
now,
just a bit.
Some of them I agreed on as far as when they actually happened.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, that makes sense to me. I'd be okay with that.
Well, we had several instances of this pay-per-view of them going back to the proverbial well.
Right.
I see some things coming up that's been done in the past, which that in and of itself, not really a bad thing. The Bella split. I mean, we've had time and time again where family members have turned on each other.
But I honestly didn't see that coming.
No, that's true.
And so that I give them props, because I really thought it was going to be Daniel Bryan getting involved, and we would see Brie Bella win because of that. But seeing Nikki turn on her, after it happened, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But at that moment, I was like, well, wow, okay.
But this is very bad news for the for other tag team people, or as somebody else much wiser than I would say.
But I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
Because when you look at people like Stardust and Goldust,
right,
that was a perfect scenario for a family member to turn on another one.
Right.
And now they've already got this instigated with the Bellas. So where does that leave us with the Gold Twins? I mean, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Already they're not using them very much.
Right.
And I think they've taken the one feather out of their quill that they could have used with them, because there are about a dozen different things they could have done with the Bellas a lot easier.
Right.
But I think it really does leave the Gold Boys out a little bit out in the dark.
Now, would you ever see them splitting up the Usos?
Well, not as one family member turning on the other. No, not now.
Okay.
Because it's too soon, even for them.
Well, I know that, but could you ever see it happening? Because we're talking, they're identical twins.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I can't find one that is better than the other. And so why on earth could you possibly have them do on two separate single runs?
Not unless they just go from the obvious standpoint of sibling rivalry.
Right.
Dad always liked you better kind of deal. That would be the only thing that I could see them doing on that. And even that's going to be kind of sleepy. I got to tell you, the last few weeks I've been pretty optimistic with the WWE. This week, I don't know. I'm a little bit more of a cynic on that. But before we get into the main meat of exactly why I feel that way, and your feelings on the same matter as well, we might as well go ahead and start the high-tech machinery rolling here, just to get the mood set properly, get everything going in the right direction that we want to go.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4,
started.
0.
What time is it, kids?
Oh,
Yes.
it's a tweet of the week.
Here we go now.
Woo!
Call the neighbors, bring the kids in from playing.
It's a twofer, by the way.
It's a twofer.
It's a twofer.
Okay.
First one is brought to you by Pro Wrestling Nation, which you could find their Twitter handle at MattTechnique23. That's Matt with 2 T's. And this is actually, it's more of a picture, but I can explain the picture. So it's a picture of Paul Heyman.
I prefer a picture of beer, but
It's a picture of Paul Heyman and kind of acting like surprised, and it says, "Finally, we're going to have a new WWE champion." And then he puts his hands over his face. He goes, "I want the spinner belt back now."
yes. Okay.
The next one, it comes from the Hall of Fame of Tweet of the Weeks, WE Creative Humor, because this is really too good to pass up. Speaking of, and this is about Nikki and Brie Bella. At SummerSlam, Nikki screwed Brie. Not like that, you sit perverts. Unless that will get you $9.99.
Okay, yeah. Well, you know where my mind was anyway. Okay, no, those aren't too bad. But you brought up one other thing that I wanted to ask you about. I'm questioning integrity here. On the WWE network, don't you have to agree to a 6-month spread?
You don't have to.
You don't have to?
Not anymore.
No, so you can honestly just do 1 month?
1 month. It costs you more, though.
Oh, well, now, okay, I'm going to stick with my regular thing. So if you wanted $9.99, you have to agree to 6 months.
Correct.
Okay. I wonder how long it's going to be before somebody yells foul.
Why?
Because they say, and they've started this as almost like a running gag type of deal. They say that if you want to see this next pay-per-view, it'll only cost you $9.99. They're dropping that in.
That's true.
That's not true.
That is true.
No, you can see it for $59.94 in 6 easy payments of $9.99.
Well, that's the price of one pay-per-view.
But you can't watch a pay-per-view on WWE Network for $9.99.
Well, if you one pay-per-view, yes, you're correct.
Exactly, but that's what they say,
Right?
And I'm wondering how long it'll be before somebody calls them on that.
Now you can watch one pay-per-view for $12.99, but
is it $12.99 if you just want 1 month?
I think just 1 month it's $12.99.
I know a lot of people will think that I am splitting hairs on this, but the fact of the matter is, to say you can watch a pay-per-view on the WWE Network for only $9.99. That is just flat not true. You really cannot. You have to agree to doing the 6-month contract, which is at $59 and some change. So you just do it in 6 easy payments of $9.99. Right. And
we actually should probably be grateful, because I've heard a lot of reports since they introduced the worldwide version, and apparently the worldwide version is horrendous.
Is it?
It's not the same. It's not the same format. And so, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that, and also get into SummerSlam and our predictions. And talk about Raw and what we're going to find out tomorrow with some wrestlers coming back. But WB, would you mind getting us to the countdown this week?
I absolutely don't mind. And let's see if you can figure out who is missing.
Number 10.
Though he strives to be the best in the world at what he does, Chris Jericho's best just wasn't enough at SummerSlam as Y2J fell in defeat against the enigmatic Bray Wyatt. Because of this, he represents the biggest movement in this week's chart with a 4-position drop in the rankings.
Number 9.
Making her debut to the countdown, the Diva of Tomorrow is once again the Divas champion of right now, bypassing AJ Lee in this week's rankings after Paige defeated her frenemy for the Butterfly Emblazoned title at SummerSlam.
Number 8.
Even though the Usos suffered a non-title loss to Stardust and Goldust on Raw, the WWE Tag Team Champions actually gains a little ground due to rock-solid fan support.
Number 7.
The U.S. Champion Sheamus looks to be back in fighting form after coming out on the winning end on both Raw and Main Event this week.
Number 6.
I hear voices in my head, they count to me, they understand, they talk to me.
Randy Orton suffered a loss to Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. However, his renewed and motivated spirit, as demonstrated through his television appearances this week, has earned him an advance of one position on this week's countdown.
Number 5.
Even though Seth Rollins enjoyed an incredibly successful week, he remains at number 5 for the 4th week due to wavering fan support. This is in spite of the fact that Mr. Money in the Bank defeated Dean Ambrose on back-to-back nights and has even put his unstable rival out of commission for the foreseeable future.
Number 4.
The unstable Ambrose tumbles down a couple of spots in this week's countdown after questions remain about the former U.S. champion's health as well as his whereabouts.
Number 3.
After suffering a brutal loss to the Beast Incarnate, John Cena solidly remains in the 3rd position for the last month. Fortunately, or maybe unfortunately for the Cination leader, he will get another opportunity to step into the ring with WWE World Heavyweight Champion Brock Lesnar at Night of Champions.
Number 2.
Brock Lesnar's brutal victory over the former champ at SummerSlam certainly earns him a spot among the top 5, but the public's general disdain keeps Lesnar from the coveted top spot. And now, with this week's climb to the top of the chart,
Number 1.
outside of the WWE World Heavyweight Champion himself, there may not be a hotter superstar in the WWE right now. After defeating Randy Orton at SummerSlam, the black-clad superstar is now standing proud at the top of this week's countdown for the 2nd week in a row. That's this week's SCI Top 10 PowerPoints.
I'm gonna be a champion. Yeah, I got what it takes.
And now we're gearing up for a Night of Champions, which is going to be emanating from, I believe, from Tennessee, Nashville's Bridgestone Arena. It's going to be on Sunday night, September 21st. Tickets start at $25 and, as usual, go up to about $400. Which leads me to another complaint about last Sunday night's pay-per-view.
Okay.
Started out with Hulk Hogan coming out into the arena, and basically saying to this live crowd of people who paid anywhere from $25 a head to $400 per person to be in that arena, he announces to that arena, "Hey, what you gonna do? Because you could have stayed home and watched this for $9.99. I wonder how many of those people in that arena turned to each other and went, "Hey, what the hell were we thinking?"
And also, it brings up a point that you always bring up.
Yes.
And you've had this conversation before. Why are you talking about ordering the WB network when everyone's watching it from the WB network?
That's true.
So you're not getting any new viewers.
So I think they're kind of creating a little bit of a marketing faux pas by doing this. They should really only be talking about the WWE network on SmackDown and on Raw, because those are the only two things that are left on television, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because main event is strictly on the internet. NXT is strictly on the internet, to the best of my knowledge.
And they're both on WB Network.
Uh-huh.
So it goes to feed that purpose. Why on earth would you promote it on those,
Any
on those
pay-per-views that are not on WWE Network are strictly on cable now, and I don't even know if that's happening anymore.
Very little.
I
very little.
I think Cox Cable carried SummerSlam. I think.
Okay.
I know I didn't watch it there.
Yeah, we know none of the dish companies.
No, Dish didn't carry it. DirecTV didn't carry it. Those are the two biggies in the satellite marketing.
So at SummerSlam, let's go ahead and get the big stuff underway here.
Well, I was so ashamed of how we did, I didn't even record.
We saw the demise and the brutal beating of John Cena by Brock Lesnar.
That was incredible. They counted, 16 suplexes?
16 German suplexes. And a couple of those suplexes did not look good.
No.
There was a couple of them that I kind of cringed the way John Cena landed.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that's been my complaint about Lesnar. He's not a wrestler.
No.
Never has been a wrestler. And yet they're using him for this, and I know a lot of the wrestlers do not like performing with him because he is unpredictable and somewhat careless and has been known to cause injury.
Well, look at I don't know if John Cena actually got injured. I haven't heard he remembers that he did. But if you look at when he fought him in Extreme Rules, when Brock Lesnar first came back, it took 25 to 30 seconds, and John Cena had a cut the size of the city on the top of his head by Brock Lesnar.
Well, if he is injured, it can't be too much because they've already inked him in for the for his rematch for Night of Champions.
And that's true.
So if he is injured, it's not very serious.
Undertaker collapsed as soon as he got backstage and wasn't able to walk out of the building at WrestleMania.
Man,
I
wonder how this is all going to come to a head with Brock Lesnar, because the one thing all of his championship runs have in common is none of them have been predicated on him going against a fresh wrestler. He has always came into somebody like John Cena, who has been well over 10 years,
right,
well over 20 years for The Undertaker. So he's not exactly taking on opponents who you would call fresh meat. He's getting somebody who's got an awful lot of mileage under their belt, probably an awful lot of inbred injuries that are still persisting with them to that day that they're at their match. So what is really being proven here?
Right. I think it's tough because I've seen mixed reviews on what they should do with Lesnar now with the champion. You got to assume that he's going to win at Night of Champions because that would just be idiotic for them to have seen him beat him that way. I'm almost under impression or almost completely sold on the fact that he should hold the title till WrestleMania.
Are you familiar with the website TMZ?
Yes.
They reported on something earlier this week that kind of frightens me a little. And that's the distinct possibility that one person looking for a match with Lesnar is none other than Hulk Hogan.
Really?
You remember during the birthday celebration for Hulk Hogan?
Yeah.
Where and Lesnar came out to ruin the scene so John Cena could come out and save the day and really you do the build up for SummerSlam. Brock Lesnar grabbed the mic out of Paul's hand and going nose to nose, literally with Hulk Hogan, said the line, "Party's over, Grandpa." You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. According to TMZ, that was not part of the script.
Ooh.
And that rubbed Hulk Hogan the wrong way. And Hulk came back out publicly outside of the wrestling circles and was publicly saying that's crossing the line. That was in front of my wife and my children and my grandchildren. And so that's something I am not going to tolerate. I've never been in your way before, buddy. If this continues, I will get in your way now. Some people on the internet have been kind of reading in between the lines saying that this may be just a shoot from Hogan, or it could be a direct way to try to position himself into a payday. I would hate to see what would happen in that match.
Oh,
I mean, there's no way Hogan's going to survive this.
But it fits. I think I think he'd be a prime candidate to at least carry him in one pay-per-view, especially one of the other big ones before WrestleMania. Putting him in there with Lesnar at Rumble or Survivor Series.
Right.
Sure, why not? I mean, it's going to draw. It's not going to be pretty by you.
No. I mean, Hulk Hogan, bless his heart, he can barely walk to the ring now.
Exactly. So it's not going to be the most fanciest match you'll ever see. But that was one of my worries is who do we see as vital options for Lesnar if he is, from all senses, going to hold the title until WrestleMania.
Now, this brings me right back to what I was saying at the top of the show as to why I'm really getting concerned. I am really beginning to believe that this whole idea of putting everything out there as they have been doing on the WWE network, allowing leaks to happen from their writing staff from WWE Creative out into the general public and putting things up on message boards. And I think a lot of that, I suspect a lot of that is done by McMahon himself, just to kind of get his finger on the pulse. Unfortunately, this has bred a new type of wrestling fans who actually know way too much. People are already beginning to get tired of Roman Reigns, for instance. They are already sick of him. It's almost like they have already lived his complete run. Where back in the day, before the internet came along, they could have milked this storyline for months to come. I think Roman Reigns has already seen his day.
It's kind of scary, but I think you're right.
They either have to come up with a new way to invent the wheel, or look into some fresh talent coming out of NXT or their facility out of Florida. because with the absence now of Daniel Bryan, they're really getting low on the storylines. Because I got to tell you, this week's countdown was very difficult to put together because I had to include 2 people on this countdown I don't think should have been there.
Right.
That was Sheamus and the Usos.
Right.
Because if I were to ask you to name a storyline that, golly, I hate my memory, that Randy Orton is in right now, of course you're going to bring up Roman Reigns.
Correct.
If I were to say name the storyline that Brie Bella's in right now, you could name that. But what storyline is either Sheamus or the Usos involved with, or have been involved with in the past few weeks?
It's a good. Yeah.
There's nothing there.
I mean, the Usos, we just saw them lose to the Rhodes brothers, so
Yeah.
there might be that possibility there. But other than that, yeah, Sheamus is a dead storyline. I don't understand. I've never been a Sheamus fan. I've made that very public. I think he'd be better heel, and so. But
I got to tell you, the only reason why he's on the countdown, or the Usos for that matter, is because they're holding belts.
right.
That's my only reason, and I'm finding it harder and harder and harder each week to leave them on there just because of their jewelry.
Well, there's an interesting article that came out, and this kind of feeds into the creative aspect of it. That there's a lot of tension backstage, and this is from multiple sources between Triple H and Vince McMahon about the creative direction of the company.
Okay, let me put you on the spot. Between the two, whom do you find the most creative?
Right now, I'd say Triple H.
Really?
Yep.
I would have a hard time even answering that question, to be honest with you.
I think he has more of a pulse on wrestling today, and I say that from the aspects of who he signed recently, like in NXT.
Okay.
Because now
All
he's
right.
starting to bring some of the top independent wrestlers into the fold. I mean, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, they were 2 big-time independent wrestlers, and they made it big.
Let me tell you my only problem that I have with that strategy, though. Don't forget how Vince McMahon got this company to where it is now. He got it there by taking huge chances.
Right.
Like, for instance, the first WrestleMania. That should not have succeeded. Fortunately, it succeeded so well that it's been hard to duplicate since then. It's been very hard to duplicate that. They have managed to do it a few times, but not very often.
And the funny thing is what they're butting heads on is this upcoming WrestleMania.
It's way too early.
Because they both agree that Lesnar should hold the title, but they disagree on who should actually wrestle him at WrestleMania.
So why then is Triple H, now I agree with you with the idea that he's picking some good talent to come in, but why is he wasting them by sending them to NXT first? Take the chance, take the risk, go the same route in that vein. Let's put them right into the main roster on WWE and work those guys until their manly jewelry begins to fall off.
I think the reason why, and this isn't the greatest reason in the world, I'll go ahead and say that up front. It gives the characters on NXT time to develop for WBE programming.
And no, I understand that. And to the extent of a programmer, I completely agree with that. However, I think it's time to drop those ideas on some of those people, and let's go ahead and take the risk. I mean, look at the people that they have in there now, and whom they did take that risk.
Right.
Look at the top entertainment. The John Cena. Now, like him or not, they took that risk on him.
Right.
The people in the past they've taken that risk on. Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper.
Stone Cold.
Oh my goodness, that list is a mile long, and these are people who really made the company what they are. So far, looking at the people who so far come aboard to the WWE main roster from NXT, I don't see long-lasting repercussions with them as I did with those.
Boy, that's a tough one.
For instance, did you notice who was missing off the countdown?
Bray Wyatt.
No, but you're right. They were missing.
Okay.
I was thinking primarily of AJ Lee.
Well, I think that makes sense because the fact that she lost the title.
She did lose the title, but she's a great example of, yes, she's a great talent. She is a talented young lady, and you know I've always been an AJ fan.
Yeah.
Always loved AJ.
Yeah, from
however, she came from NXT. I do not see her being like the fabulous Moolah later on down the road.
Oh, okay.
I don't see that happening. I don't see her making that kind of a footprint. We need to be able to take that kind of a chance with early people. I think to some extent, putting them through NXT is actually a disadvantage because they are learning. How should I put this? They're learning rules that maybe they shouldn't know yet. They're putting too many ideas in their head now of discipline that the other guys didn't have that advantage, and yet somehow they managed to achieve superstardom without that knowledge. I'm beginning to think maybe that knowledge is not so hot.
Wow. That's a very good point because they are they're molding them into WBE format.
I mean, how many people have you seen who hold doctorate degrees and yet they're blithering idiots?
Right.
They're educated. Right. They are educated idiots, and I'm kind of thinking to some extent this may be happening with professional wrestlers. They just need to lighten up. I mean, the whole idea behind professional wrestling is taking the risk. And I think they've lost that edge over the last few years.
But they do have some good up-and-coming NXT talent. But
oh, no question. I don't want to take anything away from that.
But let's look at what you just said. To me, there's only one that's really kind of made it from NXT since they started the programming, and that is Bray Wyatt. I think
Bray Wyatt. Oh, he's definitely would be an exception to that. But look at the lull that they have put him into.
Exactly.
He's not even on the countdown. Neither is Jericho, and Jericho is falling. Falling as one of the acorns off of that tree from NXT, even though he's not from NXT.
No,
but he was up there with Bray Wyatt, and I think his career is suffering as a result.
Wow. I didn't see us going that way on this show.
I know it's been kind of weird.
But
Sorry.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a very good point. But to my argument about creative directions, the rumor has it is that Vince McMahon wants Lesnar versus Rock.
Yes.
Triple H wants Roman Reigns versus Lesnar.
To me that makes a lot more sense than The Rock.
Thank you.
I think Roman Reigns would make a lot more sense. But we get right back to the problem that I pointed out. There's been so much leaked out on the internet about Roman Reigns. There are some people who are already tired of him.
They should have him turn on John Cena.
Now that I think would be really interesting. That I think would restoke the kindling.
Yeah.
They need to teach Roman Reigns a few more moves.
Exactly.
Because he's got, like 5 moves. I call them 5 moves of doom.
Right.
Take away that Superman punch. I mean, that's almost insulting.
Yeah. The spear.
Yeah, the spear. That's been done to death.
Yeah.
Come up with something else. There are all kinds of varieties you can mutilate the human body. Believe me, the government comes up with these all the time. Surely there's got to be something we could do in a squared circle.
That's you're right. You're right, but that's Roman Reigns is stalemated, and I think they're gonna. I can see what happened to Batista last year at Royal Rumble possibly happened to Roman Reigns at this Royal Rumble, and
they really cannot afford. They cannot afford that.
Can't.
They cannot afford that at this point. They've got They've got this huge basket, but they don't have very many eggs in it. And right now it's getting a little bit more fragile, and I think they're letting go of too much information too early. They're not taking enough chances with young talent as I'm feeling that maybe they should be.
And their brightest egg is still hurt with Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, and that's he really needs to come through now. But the last
he's going to get Tommy John surgery.
That's what I hear. So that'll put him still 3 months further down the road.
Oh shoot, longer than that. I mean. I was a baseball kid. If you had Tommy John surgery, you're out for a year. Now,
I did hear the illusion, but connecting that with baseball. Exactly what is that? If you could sum that up real quick.
It's a elbow and shoulder joint or muscle,
which would obviously affect a pitching arm.
Correct.
Okay, I got you. But I did hear that term, and I saw several reports that we're looking at least 3 months, maybe even longer down the road before we can even think about seeing him.
Correct.
Boy, I'm just a bitch today.
Well, tonight should be fun.
Yes.
We got Shawn Michaels, Hulk Hogan, and I believe Ric Flair kicking off Raw tonight. So that should be fun seeing all 3 of those guys.
You mean tomorrow night?
Yeah, I'm sorry, tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, yeah.
That's right. I do remember hearing something about that, and that's going to be live on.
Is it USA Network?
Is that going to be on USA? I thought that was going to be on the WWE Network.
What, Raw?
Oh, well, before Raw begins, I thought that's what that was.
Is it the kickoff show?
I think. Well,
no, it's not. It's not the kickoff show.
Awesome. I'll be looking forward to seeing that. Meanwhile, join us next week right here on SCI.